You're listening to the Telltale channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. So the first article I wanted to take a look at here is entitled, "People Would Be So Receptive Right Now, and We Can't Knock on Doors." This is on New York Times, and it's the story of a Jehovah's Witness on the inside of the religion and what's happening right now and the changes that she sees taking place. This is by Dion Searcy, New York Times. Let's give it a read and see what it says. Brenda Francis settled into the Kingdom Hall in Calhoun, Georgia, in mid-March, surrounded by dozens of familiar faces. Signs cautioning against shaking hands and hugging were posted around the room. It felt weird to her, but was certainly understandable with the threat of an outbreak looming. She herself had already stocked up on some masks and gloves. God, this is worded really strangely. When it came time for members to comment on the Bible readings, Miss Francis noticed the microphones typically passed around the room were now attached to the end of long poles. That may actually... a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses congregations have been doing that. They've been switching over to... So, all right, I've explained this in videos before. Let me just kind of give a brief overview of how this operates. Jehovah's Witnesses, as we all know, produce these materials like the Watchtower and the Awake magazines and everything, right? And they produce all kinds of other books and stuff. Well, in these magazines and in these books, they have these paragraphs, and at the end of the paragraph, you have a question. So you're supposed to read the paragraph and then read the question, and then you underline the answer in the paragraph. When they do it at their meetings, like in public, what they'll do is they'll have somebody on stage read the paragraph. Then the book study conductor or the study conductor will ask the question that's at the end of the paragraph. People in the audience will raise their hands. He will pick on one of them, preferably young children, because, the younger you can indoctrinate, the better. And somebody will carry the microphone over to the person who had their hand raised, hand them the microphone. They'll read the answer from the book, or sometimes they'll reword it to kind of give a personal experience, a short 30-second personal experience that relates to the answer in some way. So they've been doing it this way for like a really, really long time. But I've noticed that since I left in the past 10 years, they have switched to using like long microphones that the mic handler just kind of lays across the crowd for you to just speak into, so you don't have to hold the mic or anything. That's been going on for a while. If you're watching the podcast clip on YouTube, you'll see this is an example of what they're doing now. And they've been doing this for like a long time now in a lot of different places. They have this big long pole with the mic connected to it, and then somebody will basically walk it over to you and hold it out, and you'll just say the answer for like 30 seconds, and then they'll back up and stand in the back of the hall or whatever, wait for the next one. When I was going to meetings, it wasn't like that. They actually passed around a microphone. They would pass it down the line. And I was like super honored to like pass the mic down to the next person. I was like, oh, microphone, how cool is this? It's been changing like for a long time. This change that this person is noting is not new. It may have been new for her congregation. And maybe they did change it for her congregation specifically because of the virus situation. But yeah, they've been moving in this direction for a while. Let's continue reading this. That was the moment Miss Francis, a 69-year-old widow living in a small, semi-rural community in the South, realized just how dramatically the coronavirus pandemic was about to reshape her spiritual life more than anything ever had in the 47 years since she was baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. A few days after the boom mics came out to the Kingdom Hall, word came down from the group's headquarters that, in the interest of safety, Jehovah's Witnesses should stop witnessing its practice of in-person attempts at converting people to the group. That's actually really, really interesting that they ordered them to stop witnessing. And witnessing means they're supposed to stop knocking on doors, basically. Extremely fascinating change. People would be so receptive right now, she said of her ministry. And we can't knock on doors. Yeah, that's right. You can't knock on doors. That's a bad idea. For your safety, don't do it. I'm honestly really glad Jehovah's Witnesses, as the religion, the leadership, told their people to take this seriously and not knock on doors. I'm glad that they're taking this seriously. Really, really glad about that. I don't want people to die from this, and I don't want them to be super spreaders either. It's really concerning for their safety, for everyone's safety. Across America, most religious groups have stopped coming together in large numbers to pray and hold services in keeping with stay-at-home orders. They have improvised with online preaching and even drive-in services held as parishioners sit in cars. Mormons have stopped going door to door in the U.S. and called home many missionaries working abroad. That's good news. I'm really glad to hear that too. Jehovah's Witnesses, with 1.3 million members in the U.S., who hand out brochures on sidewalks and subway platforms and ring doorbells, are one of the most visible religious groups in the nation. Most visible? I'm not sure what that means. If you mean they're one of the most mocked for being cult members and having no idea, I would give you that one maybe. And 1.3 million members in the U.S., I don't know if that number is correct. They have 8.5 million worldwide. No need to wonder. I just loaded up my question gun. Let's go answer hunting. Okay, so the U.S. population at this moment is 329 million. The United States has 1.2 million publishers, like Jehovah's Witness publishers. And supposed memorial attendance was 2.4 million in the U.S. So let me just give you a brief explanation of what a publisher is. You can be a baptized publisher or an unbaptized publisher. Basically, it means you're allowed to go knocking on doors. They'll write up a publisher's card for you, and they will allow you to go out in car groups with other Jehovah's Witnesses and preach the good word, so on and so forth. The first step in the religion is becoming an unbaptized publisher. I remember, I think I was like 8 years old when I became an unbaptized publisher, or somewhere in there, maybe 9. And then I was around 14 when I got baptized, I think. So they have 1.2 million publishers, baptized or unbaptized, just people who are allowed to knock on doors for the religion. And then they have 2.4 million memorial attendants. So the memorial is basically like their Easter, pretty much. And they pass around bread and wine that night after the sun sets. And there's a whole big special ritual to it. But generally speaking, it is kind of a religious holiday for Jehovah's Witnesses. So they will invite as many people as they possibly can to come to the memorial. It's basically their count for how many people are even a little bit interested in the religion, even a little bit. As many family members as you can get, as many return visits, as many people as you can bring them. That's the idea. It's a huge push every year. They want to get these memorial tracts pushed out to every door in the country before the memorial takes place. So this past year, they didn't really have a public memorial, surprisingly. They told people to observe the memorial at home. I was so blown away when I heard that that's what they were doing. I think some areas met with their book study groups. I think it depended on the country and the area of the country and so on and so forth, whether they actually met or not. But a lot of people observed it at home. I could not believe it. This is a serious religious holiday. Like, not observing the memorial as a Jehovah's Witness is like as bad as committing a serious, grievous sin in their eyes, because it was a command by Jesus that you're supposed to do this. Fascinating that they changed their mind on that at the last moment for this year because of the pandemic that was taking place. Anyway, the point here is memorial attendance in the U.S. is 2.4 million. Publisher is 1.2 million. So I don't know where this person got this number of 1.3 million Jehovah's Witnesses in the U.S. 1.3 million publishers now, maybe. That's not baptized Jehovah's Witnesses, though. Anyway, let's continue reading. With 1.3 million members in the U.S. who hand out brochures on sidewalks and subway platforms and ring doorbells, are one of the most visible religious groups in the nation. Members are called on to share scriptures in person with non-members, warning of an imminent Armageddon and hoping to baptize them with the prospect of living forever. Yeah, I guess that's a fair assessment of it. The decision to stop their ministries was the first of its kind in the nearly 150 years the group has existed. It followed anguished discussions at Watchtower headquarters, with leaders deciding March 20th that knocking on doors would leave the impression that members were disregarding the safety of those they hoped to convert. Oh, okay, so wait a minute. This is about public appearance, not about the safety and health of their members or of the people they're talking to. You got to be kidding me. That honestly wouldn't surprise me, though. The Jehovah's Witness governing body and Jehovah's Witness membership more generally are very conscious of appearances. Appearances are very, very important to them. This is not an easy decision for anybody, said Robert Hendricks, the group's U.S. spokesman. As you know, our ministry is our life. Yeah, that's an understatement. It was for Miss Francis, who became a Jehovah's Witness when she was in her 20s with a newborn, and a member knocked on her door in Tennessee and convinced her to attend a Kingdom Home meeting. She converted. Her family was angry that she no longer came to holiday gatherings. The group doesn't believe in celebrating holidays or birthdays. Jehovah's Witnesses became her new family. Yeah, that's a pretty good assessment. You leave your family behind and become a member of this cult in the truest sense. I can't blame her family for being upset that they're basically ripping her away from her family like that. It's extremely sad when this kind of thing happens. The more she studied the Bible, the more she came to believe it led to eternal life. She needed to spread the word. Showing up cold on someone's doorstep didn't come naturally. She was so shy that once she recalled her high school principal, this huge Goliath guy, stood on her foot in a crowded hallway, and she didn't say a word, but waited in pain for him to move. She had considered a career going door to door as a Mason shoes saleswoman, but after receiving a catalog, she never mustered the courage to even try to make a sale. That's me pretty much. I am so bad in public situations. It's the most stressful thing for me. I can't stand it. I just cannot stand having to I don't understand public interactions. I don't understand face-to-face interactions at all. It's very, very difficult for me to interact with people. I mean, I was isolated for a good portion of my childhood from society. Isolated for 3 to 4 years of my life. Formative years. Not around another human being except for my two parents who had bipolar disorder, both of them. And as a result of that, it's so difficult for me to interact with people on a one-on-one basis. It's so difficult for me to go to a party or anything, go out to dinner with people. It's really difficult. And it's something that I've struggled with basically my whole life. And part of my personality that I've tried so hard to fix, basically.